You're listening to the Cyberwire Network, powered by N2K.
%of the parents that we asked, they did admit to some form of electronic monitoring of their children, and we think that number is extremely high.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cyberwire's Hacking Humans podcast, where each week we look behind the social engineering scams, the phishing schemes, and criminal exploits that are making headlines and taking a heavy toll on organizations around the world. I'm Dave Bittner from the Cyberwire, and joining me is Joe Kerrigan from the Johns Hopkins University Information Security Institute. Hello, Joe.
Hi, Dave.
Got some good stories to share this week, and later in the show, Carol Theriault returns. She speaks with David Ruiz from Malwarebytes. They're talking about parents spying on their kids.
The start of the year is a great time to take that next step in your education, career, and beyond. Rely on N2K Certification Prep to provide the tools to help boost knowledge, skills, and confidence to get you there. And now, for a limited time, all N2K certification practice tests are 40% off. Visit n2k.com/certify and use promo code N2KVDAY. That's N2KVDAY to save 40% on your purchase. That's n2k.com/certify with promo code N2KVDAY. Offer ends Monday, February 19th. Happy learning.
All right, Joe, before we get to our stories, we have quite a bit of follow-up.
Indeed we do.
This week. So let's jump in here. You want to take this first one?
I'll take the first one. It comes from a listener named Casey, who says, I just wanted to say that your story about the coming Minority Report situation in public schools was interesting in a scary way. He says he also loves the podcast. Keep them coming.
Yeah. No, thank you, Casey, for writing in. We got one from Jonathan. Jonathan says, at the end of the first half of episode 186, you mentioned a programmer job scam where the person just flips jobs every few weeks and never really does anything.
Yep.
The twist I've seen is where the contractor gets the job, then farms out the actual work to a Chinese or Indian outsourcer at a fraction of their salary and claims it as their own. Having 2 or 3 of these scams going on together at a day rate of about 500 pounds equals about $2,000 daily. Being a project manager with 3 projects is hard, but not $2,000 per day hard.
Right.
Yeah, that's certainly another way to go at it, I
Gives
suppose.
me an idea, Dave.
Boy, Joe sure is on a lot of podcasts lately.
I don't know. Is this really a scam? I mean, you're providing the work, you're doing the work for the agreed upon price, right?
If the people are happy with the work, then I suppose there's no real problem with it.
Yeah, I don't know that because they're paying you for the work, and you're delivering the work.
Yeah.
What do they care about how it's done?
Well, I mean, I suppose it's fraudulent in that if you're representing it as being your own work, then you're not being on the up and up. But ultimately, if they wanted to hire a contractor, they would have hired a contractor.
Right.
But
right.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing that concerns me about this is if they're doing it with, if they're doing it for a company that is very concerned about intellectual property. I guess there's your concern is that you're putting the intellectual property at risk.
Right. You're offshoring basically.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. All right. Well, good point from Jonathan.
Yep.
Our final bit of follow-up this week, a listener writes in and says, hey, I was listening to a recent episode of Hacking Humans regarding the problem of redirects in web browsing. A site I've found helpful is called Redirective Detective.
It rolls right off the tongue, doesn't it?
Redirective Detective, yeah. Given the episode's subject matter, I won't provide a link, but it should be the top hit in any search engine. This site allows you to drop in a suspicious URL. It'll check for redirects. Like any tool, it's not foolproof, but something people can use to check for suspect sites. Love the show. Keep up the great work. That's another good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that there are all these little tools that you can drop suspicious URLs in. You should good to have those bookmarks. So if there is something, you think might be not on the up and up, you can drop it in there and, what do they call it? Pre-detonate it.
Pre-detonate it, right. VirusTotal also has a URL feature that you can use.
Yeah.
So if you got a suspicious URL, you can just copy and paste it right into that, and VirusTotal will detonate it for you, and you can see how it goes. But this redirector detector, that kind of does roll off the tongue.
Yeah.
Once you get used to saying it, it's pretty fun to say too, by the way. Redirector detector.
It's redirective detective.
Oh, redirective detective.
Yeah.
Okay, now that's different. I'm saying things wrong.
Okay.
Redirective detective.
Let's move on to some stories,
All right,
Joe.
yeah,
Why don't you kick things off for us?
Let's redirect this conversation.
There you go.
So my story comes from Proofpoint, Dave.
Mm.
And this came out earlier this month, and they are rounding up last year's strangest social engineering tactics. And they have a top 5 list.
Okay.
I love lists.
Yep.
Right? At number 5 is soccer scouting. Last year, researchers saw multiple social engineering campaigns using soccer lures to deliver malware to clubs in France, Italy, and UK. And I guess soccer is really big over there.
You know, they call it football, Joe.
They do.
Yeah.
They call it football. That's right. So the way the threat actor was working in this case was he was posing as a sports agent representing young players from Africa and South America. And he was sending people what looked like videos. But they were malicious, of course.
Okay.
Right. Number 4, spoofing scholars.
Spoofing scholars. Okay.
Right. There's an Iranian-aligned actor targeting European academics in foreign policy or in policy experts, right?
Yeah.
Now, I will tell you something, Dave. Academics get targeted a lot because they have research that they have not been releasing, that has not been released yet, that might be pre-released. And if you can get that research beforehand, you might have some kind of competitive edge.
Right. Okay. Yep.
So there's this threat group, which is called TA453. Do you know which kitten thing that is?
I don't know which kitten that is. No, it's pouncing kitten or
right.
Yeah.
It's all cats for Iran.
Yep.
What are the American ones? Are they eagles?
They don't name them, but if they did, they would definitely be eagles. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They were posing as senior research fellows at universities using lookalike email addresses to spoof real academics. And they were just trying to get into people's accounts using those things. So pretending to be something you aren't. Number 3 is fake but functional. They have some high-profile social engineering campaigns involving finely crafted but non-functioning lures. The most famous one is, we talked about this one on the show. It was Bravo Movies. That was just it was a fake streaming site, completely fake streaming site with all kinds of content listed on it, but all it did was install malicious software on your computer. But these attackers are moving beyond that, and they're actually writing stuff that actually works. They send you a Microsoft Excel file containing a freight calculator, but of course you got to enable macros, Dave.
I see.
Once you do that, Bob's your uncle.
Right. So the calculator works, but you get a bunch of extra stuff that you don't want.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You get your computer becomes pwned, as the kids say.
Right.
Good news, bad news. And this is one of those things that really is just an unconscionable thing that these malicious actors do. This one is they're targeting people within the same company, and they're sending some of them upcoming termination letters that say you've been terminated, and here's how you get all your stuff in order. And they're sending other people, hey, you're getting a bonus. And they're sending these competing emails into the same company. Can you imagine? You and I are sitting here working one day,
right?
And you get an email that says you're fired, and I get hey Dave, look, I'm getting a bonus.
Okay.
Right? Peter sent me a big bonus check.
Yeah.
They're firing me.
Right.
You and I would be dubious of that, right?
Yeah. Well,
but hopefully, because we're steeped in this. But imagine the regular employee who doesn't live and breathe this stuff, right? What does he feel or she feel? The termination one is terrible, right? And there's no good outcome here.
Well, and I wonder, does it amp up the emotional response because the people who are feeling bad feel even worse because the people across the cubicle from them are, dancing a jig because they got a bonus.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I'll tell you the termination one, I can absolutely see that being one that might work on me. You're being fired. Here's your explanation in this letter. What? I'm being fired? How dare they? Let me click on it. Oh, now I see.
Right.
And here's my favorite one, Dave. This one comes from Canada, north of the border, if you will, the Great White North. And it is a phishing email that combines the lures of an inheritance with a lottery winning. Now, we've always said if you didn't enter a lottery, then you didn't win the lottery.
Right.
You didn't buy a ticket, you didn't win a lottery.
Yeah.
But there's the lure of an inheritance is different, right? Because who knows, maybe you do have some rich uncle that you never heard of, right?
Yeah,
and that's much more feasible.
It can happen.
Right. But they're saying, hey, you've gotten both of these and they're sitting in one bank account and the Bank of Canada is going after it right now. So if you buy this ATM card, that'll show that you're interested in the funds and they'll stop seizing it.
Oh, I
so
see.
send us the $100 ATM card and we'll secure your funds.
Uh-huh.
Now, if you buy this $100 ATM card, that's just the beginning of the harassment, right? They go, oh, we got one on the line, and they will continue to try to drain your account of all the money that you have.
Wow. You know, this is a bit of an aside here, but it reminds me of one time my wife got a nastygram in the mail about a speeding ticket she got in a town in like South Carolina that she had never been to.
Right.
And they said, well, look, you can handle this. You can do this the easy way or the hard way.
Right.
You can just, pay for this. It's just like, okay, because if you don't pay for it, you got to go down there and appear in court, which of course is never going to happen.
Yes.
So she's all right. Let me just pay for this and get on with my life. And no, they do not take credit cards. They do not take, so what you had to do was call the office across the street that someone had set up that would take your credit card, and then they would hand deliver a check to the courthouse to pay off your fine for a small fee. So I'm imagining, Boss Hogg.
Right.
Right?
Old J.D. Hogg.
Who's set up, with his cousin.
I'm going to get them Bittner boys.
Right. He's set up this scam just to make money,
right.
And this cash scam. So,
right.
Yeah.
Now, was the ticket legit?
No, the ticket wasn't legit.
Okay.
My wife had never been there, and of course, you have righteous indignation. You're like, I'm not gonna, but then reality sets in. You're like, okay, well, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna travel to South Carolina from Maryland,
right?
So you pays your money, you write it off as a cost of doing business on this planet on which we live, and you get on with your life.
Right.
Yeah, very frustrating though. All right, well, good stories. We will share that article in the show notes, of course.
Yep.
My story this week comes from one of our listeners who wrote in. He said, you can call me Ricky. He said, I want to share this story with you as a win, sort of, preventing a scam, but also to raise the question of best practices at retail chains. He says, I work for a large tech retail chain in a customer-facing role within the store, but I've also done work with finding vulnerabilities and such, hence my awareness of these scams.
Huh.
Anyway, a customer came into the store asking to purchase a 200-pound Steam gift card. So sounds like Ricky is European.
Okay, I was going to say a 200-pound what?
No.
What in the tech store weighs 200 pounds?
That was not the weight of it. That was
the cost.
British pounds.
Right,
yes.
200 British pounds for Steam gift cards.
Right.
Which makes sense.
Yes, and he says, now I have some procedures. This is the quick version of how it went. Why don't we do this together, Joe? So
Okay.
I will play the part of Ricky and you can be the customer. All right.
Okay.
So I will say, Ricky said, what are you using this for?
And the customer says, I'm giving it to my nephew.
Oh, so it's a gift for his birthday.
No, he's abroad at the moment and needs to get cash because his flight has been canceled.
Can we have a chat over here for a second?
I just want to buy the gift card.
I want to make sure you're buying the right gift card, sir.
Yeah, he said to get the Steam one.
That can't be used to get cash out of a cash machine. And Ricky says the customer's a little frustrated now, but he's been doing customer support for years, so he kept him calm enough.
Well, that's what he said, so...
Have you spoken to him by phone or just messages?
Messages.
Have you sent him gift cards before?
Yeah, a few.
He says he's clearly aggravated, but Ricky keeps his interest. How much money does a flight cost? How much money have you already sent?
2,800 pounds. Can you just sell me the damn gift card?
If you want them, absolutely, sir, but I'm worried about this. Can you phone him and actually speak to him, please?
Just sell the gift card. My nephew wouldn't steal from me.
I know he wouldn't, sir. I'm worried that it isn't your nephew. That's exactly my point. And he says the customer buys the gift card anyway.
Okay.
Now, he goes on and he says a few minutes later, the customer came back. I think he was annoyed at himself as he didn't want to believe that he'd lost his money. He asked to talk to me, and I explained how the scams work. He clearly began to realize. I refunded his purchase, that he just made.
Good.
He says, this isn't the perfect template for a conversation, but ultimately I asked questions which raised some red flags to me as being unusual.
No, this is the perfect template, Ricky. You did a great job here, and it was successful.
I don't want to say that I'm so amazing, blah, 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 but I think
you're amazing.
But I do think that there should be some kind of policy for asking some things like this.
I agree. And a lot of stores do that.
More and more.
We've talked about CVS. When you buy a gift card, they say, who are you buying this for? What are you giving it to them for? Why do they need it? They start, giving you the third degree. They start doing what Ricky's doing here.
Yeah. They have signage up.
Yeah.
Where the gift cards are that are warnings.
Right. I went to Lowe's and there were signs up at the cash register saying gift card scams. Here's how they work. Mm-hmm. This is great. Ricky, you saw something going on. You said something to it. The guy disregarded it, but what you did was plant a seed. And as he walked out of the store, that seed started growing. And he started going, this guy might be right. I might be getting scammed. And it worked, Ricky. This is great. Good job.
Yeah, the other thing I'll add is that I think what was really well executed by Ricky was the way that he did it, that he was not confrontational, he wasn't accusatory, he just sort of, as you said, he planted that seed, let the gentleman buy the card, sent him on his way, and later found out that seed took root.
Right.
Yeah. All right, well, Ricky, thank you for sending that in. Again, that is my story for this week. I think it's a good one. Joe, it is time to move on to our catch of the day.
Dave, our catch of the day comes from a listener named Michael, and he writes, this email really looked good. The embedded links do not link to Microsoft. They originate from France. The YouTube link doesn't even go to YouTube. And actually, I looked at the other links, including like the privacy policy, and they all go to the same URL. But the verbiage, he says, you cannot use your own email for this product, raised the hair on the back of my neck. So there's a number of red flags in this email, but it is a well-crafted email, visually stimulating, visually looks good. Not stimulating, but it looks good.
So it says Office 365 Business Premium account, get exclusive features and storage, Office 365 app, Microsoft corporate partner, license for schools, home, and commercial use, compatible with all devices. And it lists a whole bunch of other features of this.
Right.
And then it says important information. This product is an account, not a license key. This is a new account. The account is brand new and exclusive to you. You will receive a unique email and password login details, which you can use to log into portal.office.com and enjoy Office 365. The first time you log in, you will be prompted to set a new password from the default generated one. After set a new password, please save it and remember it. This cannot be used to renew an existing subscription. You cannot use your own email for this product. You can only change the password of this account, not the email address and name of this account. Video tutorial of how to download and activate Office 365 by signing in with a Microsoft account on Mac or PC. And then there's a link to YouTube.be.
Right, which is YouTube's link shortening service.
Right.
But that link does not go to YouTube. It goes to the same website as everything else goes to.
Yeah, there's a big red button that says Get Office 365 Business Premium Account. So what? When you read through this, Joe, what are the things that caught your eye?
Well, one of the things that catches my eye is kind of what Michael says. It says you can't change the password or you can't change the name or the email for this product.
Yeah.
Which is weird. I mean,
is weird.
It's not how these things work. Another thing that catches my eye is it still says Office 365. The product used to be called Office 365, but they since changed it to Microsoft 365. So this, but if you don't know that, you're not going to, and that's a branding decision that not everybody pays attention to.
Yeah.
And even I am not 100% certain that that's correct all the time. I mean,
sure.
I'm not such a Microsoft fanboy that I'm like, oh, what are they calling it now?
I can never remember if it's Office 360 or Office 365. I'm like, is it 360 degrees of a circle or is it 365 days of a year? I just can't get it straight.
Bad decision.
Yeah.
And are they going to come out with Windows 365? Are they just going to go from Windows 11 to Windows 365?
Who knows?
Look at that. Look how far ahead we've gone.
Right, exactly.
These marketing guys wreck everything.
It strikes me too that this is kind of along the lines of, There are these scammy, spammy emails that kind of wink and nod at you that they're offering you pirated software.
Yeah.
Get Adobe Photoshop for $29.99. Not a subscription, yours forever. That sort of thing. And this is along those lines. So I would say, in addition to the things you pointed out, there's also that, if it's too good to be true.
Yeah, you're probably buying hacked software. And if you're buying hacked software, there is a probably 90% chance that there's something malicious in it.
Yeah. These days, for sure. Absolutely. All right. Well, our thanks to Michael for sending that in. We do appreciate it. We would love to hear from you. If you have something you'd like us to consider for our catch of the day or perhaps a story, you can send it to us at hackinghumans@thecyberwire.com. Joe, it's always great when Carol Theriault joins the show, and she is back this week. She is speaking with David Ruiz from Malwarebytes, and they are talking about parents spying on their kids. Here's Carol Theriault.
Data privacy, we all know it's a big deal, but we rarely hear about one aspect of this privacy issue. The one where parents actually digitally track their kids' activities online. Here's where I bring in David Ruiz from Malwarebytes. He's an online privacy advocate. Thanks for coming on the show, David.
It's great to be here.
So you guys recently dug into this area, asking how parents track their kids, why they track their kids, or how. And I'd love just to hear about what you guys found out.
So we found the top line, the headline here is that 84% of our respondents, so 84% of the parents that we asked, they did admit to some form of electronic monitoring of their children. And we think that number is extremely high, right? Because it is. And it's something that you also got to at the very beginning there, right? Which is that we talk a lot about data privacy as a concept. We talk a lot about data privacy as sort of black and white, as sort of this absolute kind of concept where if you are invading someone's privacy, if you're monitoring someone's activity without their knowledge, that's a wholesale bad. How could you do that? Reprehensible behavior. But we are ignoring that there are parents every single day who are faced with this question of, should I monitor what my kid is doing? And they don't really see it from what we learned. They don't see it as this conceptual thing. They don't see it as this big, contrast between two opposing sides. They see it, as we learned, as, can I keep my kids safe? And that's why we see something like 84%, of parents saying that they do it. 70% said they used at least one form of monitoring that they had told their kid about, right? So their kid is informed.
So so they're saying I'm watching your activity on Facebook, for example, or something like that.
Right, exactly. They say, hey, we know you're going to start using this platform. We're going to look at it. Those are the terms of the deal, right? On the flip side, we had 36% of folks saying that they used at least one form of monitoring without telling their kids.
Whoa.
So
So do you think, and we're just spitballing here, but it's a bit like kind of going into your kid's bedroom, isn't it? Without their permission.
It's a little bit like that. And there are some things that are different, right? There are some things that are not entirely the same because the types of monitoring we do are different. So something like tracking GPS locations, which was the most popular thing that parents did, when looking at their kids, when monitoring their kids, that was the most popular thing. We don't have a corollary to that, in the non-digital world, right? You can't go into your bedroom and your kid's bedroom and assume that your child said, today I went here, then I went there.
I wonder if parents actually buy phones for their kids before kids actually beg for them in order to have that GPS location tracking on them.
Basically, every modern phone that you can get, at your store, GPS tracking is extraordinarily easy. So
most of the apps you have on your phone are trying to do it. So
right. So you don't even have to try that hard. They can do it. And so that might speak to also why it's the most popular, right? It's the easiest one to do.
Now, what else do they track? Do they track things like gaming?
Yeah. So parents are tracking gaming. Parents are tracking social media use, obviously. Parents, the least popular thing they're doing is tracking text messages, so messaging apps. There is a couple of reasons that could be. One of them that we think is also that it is the hardest thing to do aside from saying, give me your phone, I'm looking at your text messages.
GPS makes perfect sense to me that's the number one thing parents would want to do. That doesn't surprise me. And it kind of makes sense. You want to know where your kids are at. And in fact, you're liable, right? For they get into trouble.
Right. Parents are monitoring their kids' web browsing, right? Which I think also intuitively for a lot of parents makes sense. It's like as soon as your kid is able to use a web browser, as soon as they're able to type in a URL, I can see a lot of parents thinking, well, then you're old enough to, have that URL monitored by me. I need to know what you're doing. I need to know that you're not going to, websites that are one, inappropriate at a certain age level, but two, also just unsafe. I mean, like the internet is not a safe place. It's not a safe place for adults. I can understand parents saying, wow, it took me 30 years to understand what was a sketchy website. A child doesn't have that understanding.
Yeah. And especially during the pandemic, I imagine that computer usage went through the roof. Both parents are working, kids are at home. Yeah. Homeschooling wasn't always all that. There'd be behaviors that when things start getting back to normal that you might want to curb. And that might be easier said than done.
The one thing that really surprised me, and maybe it's just I don't understand how children operate in terms of like how much technology they actually interact with. Parents saying that they monitor their children's email. More than 30% of parents said that. I realized I was born in a different year. I didn't have an email address, I think, till I went to college. And that was a surprise to me. It's just that email was being tried. I was like, what do they have email for?
Yeah. I don't know a lot of kids that have emails. Actually, no, they have emails to authenticate accounts.
Oh, okay.
Right? So it might be where it is so you can see what accounts they're signing up to maybe. Yeah. What about ages? Does this start quite young? Did people kind of say, I started tracking our kids at this age?
Just really broadly here, we saw that some parents are starting to monitor all types of activities as honestly as early as 3 to 5. And so,
whoa,
yeah, but
it's like, aren't they playing with blocks at that point? Is it like a fake phone?
Like, I don't understand how you track your 3-year-old's location and expect to get anything that you don't already have. Maybe, right? A 3-year-old is going to preschool and you're worried about like, okay, is the preschool actually doing what they say they're doing? Do they take them for their walk? I don't know. It's hard for me to even fathom, right? Because they live with you.
And they're 3. So normally they're walking by 3. Yeah, they're not driving, but they're certainly walking pretty fast, right? Fascinating.
Basically, as soon as a child is able to interact with a new type of activity, a new platform, that is when parents start monitoring their kids. So web browsing became really popular between the ages of like 9 and 11, which is, kind of when you can start entering again, like I said, your own URLs. Social media was quite popular at 12 to 14. Actually, it was the most popular activity to be tracked between the ages of 12 and 14. And that is, again, like when social media, between those ages, social media that's when it starts becoming that kid's life, They live online. So we saw that monitoring was like a response to new things happening in a kid's life.
Yes, it's kind of like parents are offering their kids training wheels, as they kind of start exploring this new digital world.
Yeah.
I just wish that the 36% of kids that don't know their parents have them there did.
Yes, I 100% agree. As someone that works on online privacy like every single day, as someone that has seen privacy invaded in, particularly nefarious ways, we're talking about other types of things, non-child monitoring. The least I think you could do is you could transparently tell someone, hey, we're doing this. Obviously, the relationship between a parent and a child is different than something like, two spouses, that's where we really start caring about consent. But you can also care about consent even when your kid is a kid, like it's a transparent and I think a quite respectful thing to do.
Online privacy advocate David Ruiz, thank you so much for talking to me about this and sharing your findings. Any kids out there listening to this, your parents are probably on to you, even if you don't know it, so you have been warned.
right, Joe, what do you think?
David opens this interview with the concept of violating privacy that is bad, right?
Yeah.
We would all think that's bad, but when parents do it, it's fine with monitoring their children.
Yeah.
I don't see the issue there. I don't see a dichotomy. I don't see the I agree with the fact that it's bad when corporations and governments monitor people, but I don't think it's bad when adults monitor their children. Okay. I think as a parent, that is your primary responsibility. And my motivation of doing that is making sure, number one, my child is safe online, because there's all kinds of horrible things that go on online targeting children.
Right.
Number two, I want to make sure they're conducting themselves in a way that doesn't come back to damage them later. Right. Because we've seen people make tweets that have come back, or make statements that have come back and just destroyed careers.
Sure.
Right. And there has been no restraint on that. People are willing to go back to when you were a high school kid. Dave, I am glad Twitter was not around when I was in high school.
I know, me too.
You know,
thank goodness.
Because when I was under the age of 18, I did and said some pretty dumb things.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that those things were very ephemeral and temporal.
Right.
If my kid were to do that now, I mean, if any kid does that now, it's got a lasting permanence to it. I mean, there is some kind of entropy that takes place over time, but I mean, if somebody wants to maliciously save that information, they can do it.
Sure.
Right. It just makes you vulnerable. But at the same point in time, no, I don't want. I'm not happy with the way corporations track our stuff or governments track our stuff. And even if the government says, well, we're doing it for the same reason you do it for your kids, that's where I start having an issue. I don't want you providing me with that kind of safety.
Right.
I tracked my kids with GPS. In fact, my son and I still share locations mutually, and my daughter now has my location, but she doesn't share it with me. And that's fine because she's an adult, right?
Yeah.
She's not really my responsibility anymore. But I still share my location with her because, Dave, I'm getting up there.
Oh, Joe, I hadn't noticed.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't tell from the gray hair.
No.
I ordered a beer at a restaurant last night, and the woman said, are you over 21? I said, my kids are over 21.
There you go.
So yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with sharing location with my kids, or my kids seeing my kids' location. I will agree with one thing that David and Carell said, and that was transparency. I told my kids, we're going to be looking at things, and we're going to be watching what you do. So, don't be surreptitious with your kids.
Yeah.
That's not helpful. There was one email, my daughter, when she first got an email account, within a couple of months, she got one of those chain emails that was like scary and, forward this on or something bad will happen to you. And she was like, I better forward it. She's what, 11? She had an email address because she needed it for school. And we said, what are you doing here? Don't do this. And she's like, and she said, I was legitimately scared. And I'm like, okay, I understand.
Yeah.
But these emails are, and I explained to her what these emails are. These are a social experiment by some knucklehead who just wants to see how many times he gets this email back from his friends, right? Or maybe he wants to see if it comes in from other places. But what you've done is you've alienated everybody in your address book.
Yeah.
So don't do that. And she was like, okay, fine. And she learned the lesson at the age of 11, and it never happened again.
Right.
We did monitor our kids' social media statements for exactly the reasons I outlined earlier. I did tell the kids that I was capable of monitoring their web traffic, but I never really had a reason to think I did. If I did have a reason to, I would have gone ahead and done it. But
yeah, to me, I think you got to be careful what you ask for, right? Because there is some stuff like I think my sense is if you get too far in the weeds with your kids, just it doesn't end well for anybody.
No,
kids are kids, and they're going to do dumb things, and sometimes, one thing I've learned as a parent is how many things that I thought I got away with as a kid that my parents absolutely knew what was going on, because as a parent, I do the same thing all the time where I'm like, I'm just not going to choose this battle.
Right.
I'm going to let them think that they got away with it.
Yeah, this is not that important to me. It's, this is kids. This is what kids do.
Right.
Right. So, there is one thing. Location monitoring of a 3-year-old is unnecessary. It's one of those. If you have to know the location of your 3-year-old, I mean, that's something you should already just know. Right.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
A 3-year-old is not an autonomous person yet.
Right.
So I agree with him on that. It's that your 3-year-old should be where you are or at school in the custody of someone, an educator.
Yeah. It's hard though. I mean, you can see how, because a lot of times what happens is these folks get out there who are trying to sell you something. And they're using fear.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you want to protect your kids. And as parents, that is like the most powerful impulse we have.
Absolutely.
Right? And so if somebody says, hey, for just, $29.99 a month, you'll always know your toddler will never run away and, get abducted, okay, I can afford $29.99 a month. So
right. I should sell that kind of insurance, abduction insurance.
Right.
Because, the actual rate of child abductions is down significantly from when we were kids.
Yeah.
It happens a lot less frequently.
Yeah.
But it's still an absolutely terrifying thing to have happen.
Right. Yeah. And that's how they get you, Joe.
And that's how they get you. They use that fear. That's right.
That's right.
Fear is a very visceral response that we have.
Yep. All right. Well, our thanks to Carol Theriault for bringing us that interview with David Ruiz from Malwarebytes. We do appreciate it.
I appreciate David's perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, that is our show. We want to thank all of you for listening. Our thanks to the Johns Hopkins University Information Security Institute for their participation. You can learn more at isi.jhu.edu. The Hacking Humans podcast is proudly produced in Maryland at the startup studios of Data Tribe, where they're co-building the next generation of cybersecurity teams and technologies. Our senior producer is Jennifer Eiben. Our executive editor is Peter Kilpe. I'm Dave Bittner.
And I'm Joe Kerrigan.
Thanks for listening.